All right. Idioms are a super fun figurative language where people might say a saying that might have come from a long time ago and it still works now and it means something completely different than what you would expect. So, this is the peculiar stories behind raining cats and dogs and other idioms. Now, this is one of many stories. There are a lot of idiom stories in epics, so if you want to watch those or check those out, go for it. Stick in the mud. Meaning, a person who is a stick in the mud is not interested in excitement and change. This is from the 1970s or earlier, and it refers to being stuck in actual mud. For example, Jose wasn't excited about the field trip to the marshmallow factory. His friends call him a stick in the mud. Cold turkey. If you quit something cold turkey, you quit it suddenly and all at once. The origin of this phrase is not known for sure. It may be related to the idiom talk turkey, which means to talk about serious business. Today, the use of turkey would mean to get serious about an addiction. Maggie decided to quit cold turkey. After this last slice, she would never eat pizza again. The big cheese. Someone who is the big cheese is the most powerful or important person in the group. The likely origin of this phrase has nothing to do with cheese. The Hindi word chiz means thing. That was used by British people in India in the phrase the real chiz. Chiz was misheard as cheese, and Americans later adopted it as the big cheese. Sarah was the big cheese of her model rocket club. Her rockets always soared the highest. Take a page out of someone's book. To take a page out of someone's book is to do what they say or what they do. This phrase uses a book to represent the person's personality. When you take a page out of another person's book, you copy their personality in some way. Abdul took a page out of Hugo's book. He wore the same clothes as Hugo, all the way down to the glow-in-dark suspenders. Ahead of the curve. A person who is ahead of the curve is able to foresee or anticipate future changes. This phrase probably comes from the US military, referring to the power curve of an airplane. The power curve is represented by a graph. This graph shows speed and engine power. You are in a better position if your speed and engine power are on the correct side of the graph's curve. Marty was ahead of the curve in his history class. He looked forward in the textbook to see what would happen next. As cute as a bug's ear. A person or a thing is as cute as a bug's ear, which means it is extremely cute. This phrase is one that describes things as cute. Others include as cute as a button or as cute as a kitten. Miko's mother always said Miko was as cute as a bug's ear in public. This embarrassed Miko greatly. Achilles heel. A person's Achilles heel is his or her weak spot. This phrase comes from the mythical story of the Greek hero Achilles. It was said that his mother dipped him into the magical waters as a baby and made him invincible. However, she held him by his heel so that this became his only weak spot. Lewis was great at multiplication, but his Achilles heel was long division. Take it with a grain of salt. When you take something with a grain of salt, you have doubts of what you are told. This idiom comes from putting salt on your food to make it taste better. It refers to covering up some doubts about what you are told to make it easier to accept. Mona took it with a grain of salt when Cecile told her that her brother was a famous actor. Bury the hatchet. To bury the hatchet is to settle the differences with an enemy. This idiom comes from a ritual performed by Native American tribes. Tribal chiefs would bury hatchets when they made a peace agreement. The rival schools' basketball teams decided to bury the hatchet. They all went out for frosty chocolate milkshakes. Let the cat out of the bag. To let the cat out of a bag is to tell a secret. This phrase likely refers to a cat's desire to get out of an actual bag. This is similar to a person's desire to tell a secret. Lionel finally let the cat out of the bag. He told his sister Stacy what their parents bought her for her birthday. Keep your eyes peeled. To keep your eyes peeled is to be alert or attentive. This phrase first appeared in the United States around 1850. It refers to taking off any real or imaginary covering of the eyes that might make it more difficult to see. Scott had to keep his eyes peeled. The comet could appear at any second. Face the music. To face the music is to accept the bad consequences of your actions. The origin of this phrase is uncertain. It may come from the military, where drummers used to stand in the front of a group of soldiers. Another theory is that it came from the theaters, where actors had to face the orchestra between them and the audience. It was time for Luann to face the music. She had to tell her parents that she broke the new chandelier. Come out of the woodwork. When something comes out of the woodwork, it appears or emerges. This phrase usually refers to something unpleasant. This phrase refers to insects and spiders coming out of the woodwork of a house. Problems with Nikki's new computer kept coming out of the woodwork. First, the sound stopped working, and then smoke began coming out of the back. Tie the knot. To tie the knot is to get married. Knots have been used in many cultures to represent a connection between people. Also, actual knots are part of some kinds of wedding ceremonies. Helen's older brother and his fiancée were planning to tie the knot on March 14th. Helen was more excited to eat the cake at the wedding than she was for the ceremony, though. Pick someone's brain. To pick someone's brain is to speak with a person in order to learn about something he or she knows. This phrase uses the word pick as in the same sense of picking fruit. It refers to gather someone's knowledge. Can I pick your brain about this science homework? Todd asked Maria. He knew Maria was an expert on dinosaurs. Housewarming. A housewarming is a celebration held for new owners of a house. Originally, this phrase meant to literally warm up a new home. Eventually, it gained its current meaning. He went to a housewarming party for his friend Gil, whose parents had recently bought a new house. It's raining cats and dogs. If it's raining cats and dogs, it's raining very heavily. There are many theories about the origin of this very common idiom. It may come from the European myths, in which cats represented rain and dogs represented the wind. It also could refer to the dirty city of the 1700s London, when heavy rain would wash trash and animals down the streets. It was really raining cats and dogs out there. If it rained more, Samantha would have to come to school in a canoe. Straight from the horse's mouth. Information that is straight from the horse's mouth is from the most reliable source. This phrase came from horse racing. An old joke said that the best information about who would win the race would come from asking the horses themselves. The news came straight from the horse's mouth. Evan's grandmother told him that she would be visiting next week. Green with envy. Someone who is green with envy is very envious. It was once thought that a person's face turned green when they were jealous. It comes from the phrase green-eyed jealousy, used in William Shakespeare's play The Merchant of Venice. Example, Julius was green with envy. His friend Mindy had a new cell phone and he wanted one too. Head over heels. A person who is head over heels has fallen in love suddenly and dramatically. This phrase originally started as head over heels over head, suggesting that a person is struck by love that he or she falls over. It was mixed into head over heels in the 1700s. Martin was head over heels for his new pet platypus. The end.